Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another of our spaces. Today, our guest is Karthik, who has more than 11 years of professional experience with 8.5 years in quantitative research. He's also worked in quant desk of Motilal Oswal and institutional desk of antique stock broking for 3.5 years. He's a passionate quantitative research professional driven by curiosity. So, hi, welcome, Karthik. Thanks for accepting our invite for this spaces today. So today our title is is there any alpha left in large caps or are large caps dead this year? So we'll talk about on large caps today. Thanks, Karthik. I'm sure this is going to be a lot of fun and learning for all of us. So before starting this, Karthik, so how is COVID and everything?
Hopefully, everything is good right now, and I hope nothing serious happens. Hope it's the same with everyone out there.
Right, right, right. So, Karthik, before starting or coming to our main topic, would you mind explaining our audience what are large caps? Like, how do you categorize them, or what basically are large caps for those who don't know these terms?
There are two simple approaches out there. So one is the AMFI approach, which they use the average market capitalization of any particular stock for last 6 months. So they sort it in the descending order, and whatever is in the top 100, AMFI classifies it as large caps, and anything beyond that is like mid caps, small caps, etc. So there is one more, which is the exchange approach, which I believe is much more inclusive because it considers factors such as liquidity, where the bid ask spread for the stock should not be uh, more than 50 bips, and they also consider adjusted
Free
float
float market
market
cap.
cap, yeah,
Yeah.
and the trading frequency. So which I believe is a better approach, and we keep it simple at Contes and use this exchange approach. So we benchmark our portfolios with the Nifty indices, and whenever we see like any of the constituents changes, right, like we make an immediate change to our portfolio. So almost every fund manager today uses this approach of benchmarking their portfolios. So if you take any mutual fund, you'll see a benchmark uh, for a particular fund.
Okay. So Karthik, you said two approaches. One is AMFI and the second one is of Nifty. So mostly people use Nifty's NSE's approach, right?
Yeah.
Right, cool. So, is there any category for on market cap? So, if you have a market cap greater than 1 lakh crore or something, then you are a large cap. Is there something like that? Like in US, they have it like that.
In India, as long as I know, there is no such categorization. If you look at it, stocks like Zomato, Nykaa,
Right.
and Paytm, though they have a market cap of more than 1 lakh crore, they are
Huh?
still not considered large caps by NSC. So, because of the other factors out there like liquidity and also something to do with the longevity of these stocks. So, all these names are kind of new and are recently listed. So, the historical data available is still less, and so they're still in price discovery mode. So different people have different opinions on these new names. So that's the reason I mean uh, NSC considers a minimum of 6 months.
Right, right. So, what is the frequency of this churn or this changes in the portfolio? This large cap categorization.
So it's a semi-annual review, whatever NSC does, but I mean they do index rebalancing every quarter. So you can expect some changes like every quarter. If at all there is changes, NSE sends out a circular. Else, it's the same. So there's no change.
Right, right, got it. So now we understand what are large caps because there is a lot of ambiguity on the definitions and how do you categorize them. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you cleared this that Zomato, Nykaa, and all these companies, despite having a market cap of greater than 1 lakh crore, doesn't come in this large cap category, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So once they have the sufficient trading history and all, then they might come, right?
Exactly. So once you see like uh, less volatility in these stocks, and so the bid ask spreads will naturally get closer. So that's when you see that all these names will come in the large cap categories.
Right. Right. So before coming to a topic that is large cap investing dead in 2022, let's first understand how do you value a large cap. Like there are different methods to value different kind of companies. So if you are a very small company, then you cannot
Uh,
matrices, right?
s-
Like I mean, I mean to
Sorry,
say,
Asutosh, I lost you.
okay,
Could you repeat
yes, yes.
again?
So I'm asking that how do you value a large cap, because there are different matrices on which you can um, value a company, मतलब different categories of company, and you have to value them accordingly. So for a small cap, it's not right. I guess it's not right to value them on the PE ratio, right? Because they are so small that it doesn't have sufficient profits, or they're very they're reinvesting and focusing on their business. But for a large cap, how do you value them? What's the criteria to value them, right?
So if you look at most of the large caps, so these large caps have are market leaders in the category they
Right.
operate in, and they have a very large moat. For example, if you take say Jio and Bharati Airtel,
Hmm.
so they can pass on that price hikes to the customers. So say for a, I mean. A mid cap or a small cap company, like this is kind of difficult.
Hmm.
So price, and we live in a very price sensitive market. So so all this comes with moat, and all these companies, right? Like, I mean, they prove themselves, and they have been in this game for a long time. So and they give consistent dividends, and I mean, these are well researched companies. And also, like, if you look at most of the institutional investors, so say if they are optimistic on our country, so they go ahead and invest in large cap names. So they have most of their allocation towards the large cap names.
Right, right. So how do you value them? Like, do you use P ratio, you use EV by EBITDA, or you use book value? How do you value them?
So, I mean, you use the traditional methods like PE ratio, EV by EBITDA. So, for each sector, it is kind of different. Say for cement, it is mostly like EV by EBITDA, like which matters the most. And while for say auto companies, like it is mostly margins. So, so you'll have to kind of look at the sector and see the metrics which they use often, and that is the thing like which matters the most.
Right. So do can we generalize a P ratio kind of approach? So let's say a P ratio of 20, or maybe 25, or maybe 30 or 35 even. Is
uh,
that, can we make that a normal generic statement that yeah, a P ratio of 30 is fine, 40 is like above mean or something
no,
like that?
we cannot make such a generic statement because I mean each industry is different. For example, if we take the new age internet companies like say Zomato or Paytm, so so the traditional methods usually doesn't work in such names. So the reason, I mean, uh, uh, we see, I mean, lot of people fighting over the valuation is because I mean, it is very difficult to see people coming on board and having a common approach. So, of all the companies, only Nykaa is marginally positive today. So, its PE level is in fact around 1,500 levels. So, in a way, the market is saying that it is factoring an approx 50% growth in earnings for next 10 years. So the pressure will be on Nykaa to deliver on this. So so we can keep it simple. So if Nykaa's earnings doesn't grow at these levels, then we might see some trouble. So to play such themes, right? I mean, we can use a math a little and say like since like this is a very high risk theme, so we can limit our exposure to such stocks to say 5% of our total portfolio. So if we get our exposure right, Nifty any which way, like market will give you 50%, 15% return in a year. So even if these names fail, right, market will kind of compensate for that loss. So and still, like if it works, like it is like a call option in your portfolio. You'll see very good returns for your portfolio. So the asset allocation is something like which we should give
Right.
importance to.
So I'll come to you on asset allocation. Before that, let me,
Mm-hmm.
just for the sake of argument, let's say I'm a follower of Benjamin Graham or Warren Buffett, who says that you don't invest in P ratios above 20 or 15 or 25, let's say, for Indian markets. So do you see
Mm-hmm.
that the P ratio or the other valuation matrices that are the traditional valuation matrices, are they a little bit high? Do you see them a little bit higher than the mean, or do you think this is the new normal?
Uh, I believe this is the new normal. So if you look at Nifty's PE ratio currently, like it is around 25 levels. So a lot of people say that like it is kind of overvalued. But if you actually look at it in conjunction with say liquidity, so which is money supply. So during the last 2 years, because of COVID, I mean, a lot of money got printed. So 40% of the I mean, current money supply in total circulation was printed in last 2 years. So markets are kind of efficient. So whenever there is this excess liquidity in the market, right? So I mean, whenever there is excess liquidity, so this will finally find its way to markets. So because I mean, this is the way it works. So since it is very efficient, so money kind of flows to markets. And if you look at any asset class in last 2 years, say commodities, real estate, or even markets, equity markets, like all of them have given good returns. Even crypto, for example. So any asset classes in last 2 years, so it kind of grew because of this liquidity. So I
Okay.
would say that as long as I mean the central governments keep printing money, right? I mean inflation is bound to be there.
Okay, so Karthik, let's get one step back
Mm-hmm.
again and come back to this P ratio of 25 for
Mm-hmm.
Nifty. So don't you think, like, we understand that we have surplus liquidity, or the central banks are pumping in money and all those stuff. But again, do you think it's sustainable? Because they can pull the tap anytime. Like, they are actually pulling the tap. So we are having this. The Fed is tapering down now. So the tap is closing. We had this. Yesterday a comment that they are looking to shrink their balance sheet again. So do you think this is gonna sustain this P ratio or this
Okay.
valuations that we have?
So I would say that I mean the earnings are bound to grow. So if the earnings grow by 40%, so your PE ratio, I mean, automatically reduces. I mean, you'll have to look it as a PEG ratio rather than just only PE ratio.
Okay,
So
so PEG ratio for everyone, this is price earning growth, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the growth in earnings. So if we don't see growth in earnings,
Mhm.
so then we will see an issue. But if the growth happens, so we shouldn't see an issue.
Right. So, Karthik, today I'm playing the devil's advocate.
Hmm.
So, I'm gonna again try to come back to this risk part. So, we have couple of names here like Biocon, Bandhan Bank, and I can recall maybe NMDC. We had a lot of companies who were in Nifty 50, but they Nifty removed them and they're now in small cap now, or
Hmm.
sorry, but the large caps to mid caps, some are even small caps. Even some of the very big companies that were large caps previously are now mid cap or even small caps, or now maybe bankrupt even. So how do you see them? So how do you analyze them, or how do you keep a check on them, or how do you exit them? No, it's more about how do you manage the risk part.
Yeah. Since I mean at Context we use quantitative methods like asset allocation and modern portfolio theory. So these I mean we use these to construct our portfolio. So we basically like try to maximize the returns for a selected set of stocks and minimize the overall portfolio risk. So this way, like we are getting the maximum benefit for every buck which is getting invested. For example, in the past, I mean, we didn't have any exposure towards the Adani stocks when there was a sell-off. So, I mean, our systems kind of, gave us an indication that, allocation towards Adani stocks will be more risky. So, we didn't have any allocation, and because of that, we didn't see any major it when that fiasco happened.
Okay.
So,
So
and talk.
can you name few parameters so that we can also check maybe?
Uh, so uh, uh, I can name parameters. So we look at correlations of these stocks. So, for
Okay.
example, if you take Nifty 50 names. So
Hmm?
15 to 50, like you'll have to follow the correlation for 2000. For 2,500 pairs. And for example, if you need to create a say portfolio of 10 stocks from these 50 names, then there is about 1028 crore ways of creating such portfolios. So
Absolutely. Is large cap investing dead today? And I feel this is a important question. Right now, seeing the valuations that we have, and means there's a lot of indication that the rally might fizzle out this year. It's important to understand how to risk manage or take forward. This is gonna be a big year for everyone. The kind of gains that we had last year, it's bound to market is bound to kind of at least go into a time correction, if not price correction. So yeah, we got Karthik back. Karthik, hi.
yeah, I Ashutosh, yes.
Yes, yes. So you were telling us about some quantitative
Yeah.
process screens or some indicators, maybe anything that could help us to figure out how to exit these stocks.
You'll have to keep tracking the risk of your portfolio. So it all depends on your allocation towards certain stocks. So it is a quantitative way. So since like I use quantitative methods, so I can only explain in a quantitative way. So it is nothing but matrix multiplication of your uh, covariance matrix into the weights of your portfolio. So we keep track of this every day, and we kind of see like whenever uh, risk of our portfolio increases, we go and investigate the names where uh, it is creating more risk in our portfolio, and that's when we kind of take a judgmental call and exit these names.
Right, right, right. Got it. So Karthik, do you still believe that the kind of growth that we have seen in companies like HDFC Bank or Asian Paints for that matter, do you think we can see that growth ahead in the future, because these companies were taking market share from the competitors, but now do you think that they can still take market share forward, or because, or are they too kind of concentrated? I'm sorry, not concentrated, but yeah, too like saturated. So are they saturated?
Uh,
The business is saturated.
Okay, there are two things there here. So both are market leaders in the space they operate in, and I believe innovation and market moat is the key. So they already have the market moat, but innovation is something which really matters. So, and if you look at, uh, these companies, right? Like if they can keep innovating and understand the market well and keep serving their audiences well, so they are bound to compound and grow. So uh, it shouldn't be a problem. So if they fail to innovate and then there is a new player in the market who's kind of filling up the space, so which these people have left, these companies have left out. So that is when you'll see
So
issues
actually,
and
we are seeing right now. So you see a lot of newer banks, Paytm, and all these are coming to try and grab the retail market share from HDFCs and all these old age traditional banks. Then you have a lot of this. VC backed startups coming up who is
Exactly.
trying to, let's say, for your Hero Motocorp bikes. So they are, the Ola bikes are coming with an electronic version which is much better than the Hero's own bike, and people are going with that, right? So do you think these companies are a threat to the established names because they got the capital, they
Yes.
got the brains, right?
Yes, these companies are a threat, but I mean, these are also like, I mean, kind of new in the space. So, EV, like, I mean, it's hardly been there for, say, like a year or two. So, still, like, serviceability is an issue. And if you look at, I mean, EV charging stations, so, I mean, still we don't have many across the country. So, we can only travel, say, I mean, to an extent of 600 kilometers per charge. So not more than that.
Right, right,
So,
right.
so if we see an infrastructure, so for any given industry, so which I mean, these new players can kind of fill in. So that is when you see them as a threat. So yeah, these are new age companies. These are doing well, and they pose a threat. So, but for them to like go ahead and, I mean, displace a leader, they'll have to go ahead and change the dynamics.
Right, right. So, do you see any other risk in large caps, maybe from the Fed side, from the Indian side, RBI, or any other like competitors? Any kind of threats or risks do you see them there?
Regulators are always a threat. So we cannot kind of speculate as to, I mean, what will happen. So that uncertainty will be there. But I kind of see risk in banking and NBFC space for the very reasons which you mentioned. So because of the innovation which is happening in the fintech space. So the
Mhm.
current fintech, I mean, disruptors are able to bring more people in financial inclusion. So, I mean, if they can succeed in, I mean, innovating and, I mean, doing it better than, say, the current HDFC Bank, then, or say NBFCs. So then we can see it as a risk.
Right, right, right. Got it. Yeah, I actually feel them as a threat and a risk. So valuations are high, and all these players could, really give them some pains. Karthik, and
Yes,
also.
short term, I don't see much risk, but long term, yes.
Right, right. So, how much percentage of your portfolio do you think a normal investor should allocate to large caps?
So I believe it is directly I mean, proportional to your age. So, say for a young investor who's in say who's 25, so
Hmm.
25% of the total portfolio should be allocated in large cap, and rest should be in mid and small caps. Whereas, I mean, say a person who's in say 60, 65, so at least 65% of the portfolio should be in the large cap names.
Right, that's a nice way to take this. It's a nice approach. So, means it's simpler. You can explain it to anyone, and it makes sense. It makes total sense, right?
Yes.
Right, right. So, Karthik, since you are a quant-based trader, so can you, tell us some data points, maybe 10, 15 data points about how one should, yeah, how you could, quantitatively look at stocks or maybe large caps for that matter, the space.
You can look at time series forecasting, so which is more about auto regressions and I mean volatility forecasting. So we use these two methods to kind of forecast the prices and the risk also.
Okay. Am I audible? Can you? Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. You are there. Yeah, cool. You are there. So, what's the difference between quantitative approach and the normal traditional approach or the momentum approach?
Momentum approach is something where you kind of invest in stocks which have been doing well for last 12 months or 6 months, and
Right.
try to invest only in that basket of stocks, which basically says that you invest in winners and you cut your losers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so we are kind of different here. I mean, we don't use the momentum approach. So though momentum ultimately shows up in price returns, but we rely more on asset allocation models. I mean, for example, I mean, I can talk about Tata Motors. So this is one stock which went up from 320 to 480. So though our systems had spotted it, but still our asset allocation model had filtered it out, and since it was a I beta name, so without this I beta name, we lost an alpha of say 4 to 5% in our portfolios, and even without this one name Tata Motors, we currently have
Mm-hmm.
three large cap portfolios which have generated an alpha of 7 to 8
Okay.
percent over the Nifty.
Okay, so Karthik, can you maybe simplify it a bit for our audience? Because I understand most of us are not from a quants background,
Mhm.
but we want to do quants or maybe study a bit about it. So can you elaborate or give us some things where to start, like some initial things maybe?
You can pick up econometrics. So this is one subject which is really helpful for people who are looking to, I mean, forecast prices. And obviously you should know Python programming. And apart from this, you should kind of have at least a beginner level knowledge in financial markets, so that you don't make any basic mistakes.
Right, right, right. So Karthik, a big question here.
Mhm.
Do you want to, or can you give us a stock or maybe any hot sector that you are looking at? So again, no recommendations. Okay, this is just for general discussion purpose. We are just talking. Okay, so Karthik, anything, any stock, any sector that you are looking at, anything hot upcoming for this year?
IT sector is one sector which we believed in the past, and which we continue to believe in. When a lot of people were saying that IT stocks were overvalued, we still went ahead and allocated as much as 40% in some of our portfolios towards IT names. And that actually helped us to create an alpha of 7 to 8% in last. I mean, 6 months over the benchmark. So this is one sector which we still believe in, and I mean, I don't look at one company as such. So I mean, I kind of rely on sectors. IT is one thing, and another space which I'm kind of bullish on is cements.
Cement. So first on IT, do you think we can still buy IT at these prices? Because I guess you might have entered a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah, I entered it way back in say August. So it all depends on the results. The next week. If the commentaries are good, we still believe like IT stocks are have the potential to outperform, because lot of companies. I mean, we are living in a digital world, and this COVID has only.
Okay, so Karthik, since you are a quantitative trader or you use quants. Okay, so do you look results also? Because I don't see, are they connected, or how do you mix them?
Cons usually doesn't depend on results. So like we said, like I already told you, so we look at from a risk uh, perspective. So whenever it is usually like this, whenever the overall risk in your portfolio increases, so you'll have to go and investigate the names which are contributing towards this increase in risk. So usually it is negatively, it has a negative impact. But like I already told you, like Tata Motors was one such name which had a positive impact also. 75% of the time, like you'll see negative impact, but sometimes like you do see positive impact.
Got it, got it. So one is IT, and again, standard disclosure. Disclosure. We are all vested. We have vested interest here. I'm also personally invested in IT. Karthik is also invested in IT. So no trading recommendations. Okay, we are invested, and we have this disclosure. And the second sector you said cements, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right. So what are you looking at in cements? Like,
So in Siemens currently, I mean we are bullish on Grasim and Ultratech.
okay. So what's the thesis there? Are you looking something on price or
So
fundamentals?
no, it is a purely a quantitative approach. So I mean, so we still believe these two names are good enough, and we see value in these names too.
Okay, so I'm actually checking just charts maybe of ACC cements and okay, I see them. They are in consolidation, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. So, like, how did your model come up with this? Means, are they outperforming on like their peers or something? Maybe on different sectors if you compared them on price levels or anything else.
We use asset allocation models. So currently,
Okay.
I mean, our asset allocation model is throwing weightages towards these two names. So in the past, we had, I mean, allocation towards banks in the last month, but I mean, unfortunately, uh, it didn't go well. So we reduced our exposure towards banks and then I mean, increased it towards cement.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. So, your recommendations would be on cement and IT, right?
Yes.
Cool, cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. And uh, before we open up the Q&A round, do you want to speak about anything, any specific topic that I might have missed relevant to the subject?
Uh, there is one thing which I'd like to mention here. So
Hmm?
people go towards small caps and mid caps for growth, but if you do enough research in the large cap names, right, it is possible to create alpha in using only these names, and this is what we have done right now. So all our portfolios are. I mean, outperforming the benchmark indices, all large cap names, and all are large cap names. So it what matters is your research and your conviction towards certain sectors and stocks.
Right, right, got it. So I, open up the flow for Q&A now. Let the audience come in and let's see what they have to ask and question. Hi, Favilio. So am I pronouncing that right? So I have this. Yeah, Fabio, you are a speaker now. We have also got Gautam Pati.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ashutosh. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, we are doing good. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm amazing. As I told,
Nice, nice, nice.
uh,
So first of all, did I pronounce your name right? Because I don't want
Pavilo,
to make that
Pavilo
mistake.
actually is an invented name. I had to search a innovative name for my firm, so that's how it came out. I,
Okay, cool,
yeah.
cool.
So it's fine even
Okay,
if you pronounce it properly or not. Absolutely.
okay, okay, fine.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, you wanted to ask me something particular, or we had a discussion that I'll give my 2 cents on how there is this constant high PE stocks and how to value them, or how
right, right. Please.
please. So I'll start with
Yeah,
a very simple and a very popular example. I guess everybody would have heard about Electra Green Tech, right? This guy, I mean, this guy was into automobile parts, and then they started doing electric vehicles or electric buses. The stock is currently trading at a 360 PE. Now you got to understand how these companies are actually valued. This guy last year, when in 2019, had a capacity to manufacture 150 buses. At that point of time, he got an order from Pune Municipal Corporation for 175 buses. And at that point of time, the price was 180. So I can imagine the PE would be around 40, 50 or something, right? So, and the capacity was only 150 versus the order of 175, right? So, the prices started increasing because definitely once you get orders of 175 buses, your E is going to increase. That is the E part of the PE. Earnings are going to increase, right? Now, what happened going further? This guy started expanding. And this guy from a capacity of 150 to 150 buses, he went up to a capacity of 2000 buses per annum. And he also started getting new orders. So what happened? The market started projecting that his earnings is going to increase exponentially, and that is why his price also went. But the thing was, his current earnings are still the same because he hasn't delivered the bus, and his earnings are not yet booked. So whenever you look at the PE, you got to understand what kind of PE you all are looking at. One is the ट्रेलिंग पीई जो आपको अभी जो आपके करंट अर्निंग्स है उसको मतलब प्राइस को उससे डिवाइड करोगे आपको तो ट्रेलिंग पीई मिलेगा एंड द पीई दैट इज फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग सो व्हाट वी गॉट टू लुक एट कि वो 3 साल बाद उसका अर्निंग्स क्या होने वाला है इज द करंट प्राइस जस्टिफाइड for the earnings that are going to be 2 to 3 years down the line because that is how the market and that is how the analysts are going to come at a fair valuation. So that is why you will
Right.
see a lot of stocks that are constantly at a higher PE because their growth is going to be that way. So same,
Right.
yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was
Yeah. 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 I got it. So you mean to say about trailing P and forward P, right?
that, but involving the growth too. So when the market see growth, they see the forward PE growing, the forward earnings
Uh-huh.
growing, and that is how they arrive at a larger PE in the future,
Right.
and that is why your
Right.
trailing PE is also higher. Like my current PE is
Okay.
also higher.
Okay. So Karthik, what do you have to say on that?
Below is, I mean, referring to the same concept which I was saying. So you'll have to always look at price earnings in conjunction with growth. So if market is expecting growth, so then it is fairly priced. But I mean, if there is no growth, then it is obviously an IPE stock.
Okay, so do you predict growth here, or how do you see growth? So you see at management commentary, or calculate your own matrices.
So
So,
you have, yeah.
Karthik, you can go first. Time.
So it is a mix of both. So you read the commentary and see, like, I mean, what the commentary is, and obviously, like, you'll have to do some field work and understand the industry. So, I mean, and if you believe that whatever commentary which is being put forward makes sense, and say like 50% growth is possible for that industry, for that company, then it makes sense.
Okay.
Right.
That's great to hear
The,
from a quant analyst. I never thought that quant analysts also look at the commentaries and the industries or the numbers. Okay. So if I mean the way I do it is I usually if you go to see all the Ashutosh, all the green stocks or all the renewable energy stocks, you can just open your charts. Everything started running since the day it was announced that President Trump has lost his elections and Biden has won. Trump was total anti-climate change because he never believed in climate change, and Biden, the Democrats are strong believers in climate change. So that is the day you can remove the chart. You can, I mean, this is there in the public. Every stock that is related to renewable energy, right from Suzlon, I mean, the guys who are like literally dead in their grave, even R Powers, they started running from that day onwards. So geopolitical situations play a lot of role. That was one thing that influenced me to get into green energy. The second thing was when Prime Minister Modi went to COP26 and he announced that India needs to be by 2070 it needs to be a zero carbon company. So a lot of
right.
decisions come from top to bottom. That is one approach that you can follow. Um, Keep reading the newspapers, keep reading commentaries. Then that is how the commentary it reaches the commentaries. Because once the government announces that okay, fine, now they are giving incentives or they are giving subsidies, that is when the company will decide that it's going to expand its capacities. So it's
Right.
so that is
Uh,
one of the
so,
approaches
so
that I.
Yes, yes. Actually, so no, we just got 10 more minutes with Karthik
Sure,
here,
sure,
so
sure. I mean,
we'll
thank you for the
yeah
opportunity.
we'll get do a dedicated space on this. We've got Darshan here, so Darshan, ask your question, and anyone else, if you have any question for Karthik, just press the request button and I'll accept.
Good evening, everybody. I am audible.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you
Darshan,
are.
you are audible.
Uh, Sir, I have a strategy to buy a top three stocks of the Nifty 50, just like a SIP, value SIP, the HDFC Bank, Infosys, and the Reliance. Okay, every month I buy uh, SIP in that stocks since last 3 years. What is your view? Is there any of three stocks are out from the top 10 anywhere in the near future?
There is one thing. You are picking only three names for investing here, and you are doing an SIP.
Yeah.
So though you get price average and everything, but you have a concentration risk in your portfolio. So obviously, like your overall risk of the portfolio increases tremendously. Okay. I would suggest you to add like five more names and do an SIP so that
Sir, in last 3 years, I have a total six number of stocks because in 3 years, the in anywhere in the time, some just like a thesis is also in my portfolio, and sometime I have a HDFC also, main HDFC. Total six stocks are having in my portfolio due to I in every month I saw down the at market cap. Sometimes the TCS is in on Infosys is out, and sometimes HDFC is in, and sometimes HDFC Bank is out. That's why I have a total six stocks since last 3 years, and I have a return of more than
Yes,
index
yes,
fund.
yes. Darshan ji, we got your question. Karthik will answer this. Karthik,
yeah. So Darshan, what I was suggesting is like instead of just investing in three stocks, right? I mean, pick five more names and then try to
Okay.
diversify among sectors. So like say, I mean, don't pick the names from same sector. So these eight names should be from different sector. So that like you're not exposed towards the sectorial risk.
Okay. Thank you. No, total in
Yeah.
I have a six stocks in since three.
yeah. We also got accidental investor. Accidental investor, you got any question?
Hi Karthik, Ashutosh, can I ask?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the insights, Karthik. My question is like in so far your investing journey or experience, how you see identifying the red flags?
Okay. Red flags is something to do with, again, the management. So, if you stick with your large cap names, right, these are generally like very clean companies, and then these are well researched, and you don't see much, management issues. So, if there are management issues, right, that is a clear red flag that, it's better to cut your losses there and move on to a new name rather than believing that like this will turn around, etc.
Like Karthik, the intention of asking was like if we ask of Satyam debacle which happened late in,
Mm.
so likewise the retailers or this say the beginners are not in a position to identify what exactly is happening around. So my question was means from beginners perspective or those who are new to the market, how they go about these things. I mean, if a big company like Satyam can go, so that was my question basically.
If you look at the Satyam scandal, it's not only about a particular company, it is about the entire ecosystem as such. So, the entire ecosystem didn't spot it. So you will see uncertainties. Because nothing is certain in life, so you'll have to be prepared for it. But what you can control is asset allocation. So, and if you have like reasonable allocation towards stock and you are not over allocated towards say a particular name, you are kind of reducing the risk.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We got Yokesh here. Yokesh, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Ashutosh, two things. You earlier in the beginning mentioned there is some confusion around large cap and all that. So honestly, there is no confusion whatsoever. I have just now posted details on my handle, so you can, or rather, everyone can follow the MFI classification, which is the.
Chalo, okay, thank you. Karthik, I got one question from the audience.
Yeah.
Okay, before it just okay, yeah, I got a question from the audience. Okay, they want to know what parameters do you use. So again, you mentioned
Okay.
regression and all those stuff, but again, they're asking in something some points, data points that an average person can use or look at.
Uh, so uh, uh, it is more to do with econometrics if you are looking for a forecasting. So there are a lot of methods out there. So like for volatility forecasting, like you have GARS method, then you have ARIMA methods and everything. So apart from that, you'll have to look at simulations. So which is kind of Monte Carlo simulations. So where we take every uncertainty into our consideration. So when we create our portfolios, right, like we believe that every next day could be a bad day, so we kind of try to minimize the risk of our total portfolio. So and it kind of exhibits lower volatility, so that like even in a very bad day, we don't see much it in our portfolios. So that's the reason why even in last 2 3 months in a volatile market, our portfolios kind of stood its ground and generated that consistent alpha of 7 to 8%, which I was talking about.
Right. Got it. So we got HBC and Ayush here. So we'll take these last two questions, starting from HBC, then we'll end at Ayush. Yeah, HBC.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me ask my question. So my main question is right now nowadays so many penny caps are moving up very exorbitant, like example like TTML and all. So what's your view on these penny stocks?
Penny stocks is something I personally don't believe in. So we have portfolios, say, uh, at max up to CNX 500, which is top 500 companies in India. So beyond that, there are a lot of issues out there. So, you see a lot of management issues, liquidity issues. So, what happens in penny stocks is a lot of people resort to buy and dump scheme. So they just buy it and then they'll take the prices to crazy levels and then dump it after recommending. So I would suggest to stay away from penny stocks. But if you still have the urge to play in penny stocks, get your asset allocation right. So
Thanks, Karthik, for coming in and sharing your, views and how do you look at large cap investing, and you are still bullish on it. So thank you for, keeping our confidence and giving us these advice on how to manage our risk in this year. So thanks, Karthik, for joining in and sharing. Thanks everyone for listening, and wish you a great, coming weekend. Bye bye all. Karthik, you got anything else? Final words?
Yeah, thank you, Ashutosh. Thanks for this platform. It was great talking to you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions which is unanswered. So you can
Sure.
drop me an email at info@contestresearch.com, and I'll respond to your query.
Just I'll add your website probably. Just a second. Uh, cool. I'll add this. Mm. So I've shared that in the spaces. It's there now. You can check it and maybe get his email ID or his Twitter handle, and you can DM him or ask him on mail. So will that be great?
Yeah, that would be great. I'll respond, say in a day or two, but I'll definitely respond to every DM and email I receive.
Great. Thanks, Karthik. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Ashutosh. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.